Every plastic from Dynamic Discs listed in order from most overstable to least is Lucid X, Glimmer, Moonshine, Fusion X, Hybrid, Lucid, Fusion, Lucid Air, BioFusion, Classic Soft, Classic Blend, Classic, and Prime. Does that make sense? Let me help you out a little bit. When one disc is offered in a lot of different plastics, oftentimes those different plastics will come out of the mold a little bit differently. So one plastic will be slightly more overstable or more understable than another. So I'm gonna go through and I'll give each of the plastics a rating out of 5 for durability and stability. But it's important to know that a more stable or a more durable disc doesn't always mean a better disc. Lots of times players will want a disc that has more grip or will cover that beat-in shot so they can use it to get turnover shots a little bit easier. And so they might choose a plastic deliberately that isn't quite as durable or isn't quite as stable just to cover a different shot and have it fit better in their game. So let's get started. The Lucid plastic is seen by many as our default plastic here at Dynamic Discs. I know it's the plastic that I reach for the most when I want to try out a new disc. The Lucid plastic tends to be really durable and fairly grippy, and discs in the Lucid plastic tend to be just a little bit more overstable than in a lot of our other premium plastics. Personally, I really like the Lucid plastic for my drivers, and I think a lot of players lean towards drivers in the Lucid plastic because of that durability. When we're throwing drives off the tee, the discs are moving faster, so if they hit any trees, they're going to be moving faster and hitting them harder. So it's good to have a nice durable plastic for your drivers especially, or really any disc that you throw off the tee. I prefer to have at least one in the Lucid plastic. Our counterpart to Lucid plastic is Fusion plastic. Fusion plastic is grippier than Lucid plastic, and it tends to be just a little bit less overstable than the same disc in the Lucid plastic. Personally, I like to use the Fusion plastic for discs that I need to trust on a straight line or for those long distance lines, just because it's going to be a little bit easier to turn. But the difference between plastics and discs is not really that big. I have 2 discs here. These are both getaways. One is in the Lucid plastic and one is in the Fusion plastic. And I'll throw them side by side here so you can see that it really doesn't make that big of a difference in the long run. You can see the Lucid landed a little bit further left than the Fusion, but in general, when choosing a plastic, it's going to be more of a feel thing. How does that disc feel for the shot that you're using it for, rather than the specifics of the difference in flight, because it doesn't really make that big of a difference in the long run. Lucid Air is the same plastic as Lucid, but it has bubbles in it to help reduce the weight, to get it down to around 150 or 160 grams as opposed to up by 175 grams. Most players are going to like this plastic for higher speed drivers, especially if you don't quite have the arm speed for a higher speed driver in that heavier weight. The lighter weight is going to let you get a higher release velocity on the disc, and that can help add some distance. Now, the lighter weight plastic, because it's going to be coming out of your hand faster, usually it does fly a little bit less stable, but it should have the same stable finish at the end compared to the Lucid plastic. The Hybrid plastic is a hybrid of Lucid and Fusion plastic. It's grippier than Lucid plastic, and it's opaque like the Fusion plastic, and discs in the Hybrid plastic tend to be just a little bit domier, and that can add a little bit of stability. Playing disc golf at night is a unique experience, and one of the easiest ways to do that is with our Moonshine plastic, which is our discs that glow in the dark. The Moonshine plastic has a very similar feel to Lucid plastic, but it tends to be just a little bit domier and usually just a little bit more overstable. But like I said, these discs are great. If you just charge them up with a flashlight, you can throw them when it's dark out and you'll be able to find them in the fairway. The BioFusion plastic is reground plastic from discs in our other premium plastics that didn't meet quality control standards, so they regrind that plastic and make it into BioFusion, and the result is honestly one of my favorite plastics. The BioFusion plastic is very grippy, but it's not quite as durable or as stable as some of our other premium plastics. But like I said earlier, this is an example of a plastic that I want to get beat in. If I choose a disc in the BioFusion plastic, it's usually going to be to cover that straighter shot or more of that turnover line, because I'm trusting that it's going to beat in a little bit easier than a more premium plastic. Or if I have a disc in the Lucid or the Fusion plastic that gets beat up and I really like how it flies, but then I lose it, I might buy a BioFusion one to replace it so it reaches that beat up state just a little bit faster. Moving on to what's known as the putter plastics. The Classic plastic is our traditional putter plastic. It's got a stiff feel for a nice clean release, a lot of grip, but it's not quite as durable as the premium plastics. Really, none of our putter plastics are designed to be that durable like the premium plastics, because generally you're not going to be throwing them as hard. And around the basket, a consistent release and a good feel is much more important than that durability that you need off of the tee. And the Classic plastic is plenty durable enough to be trusted by our pros around the basket when it matters. The Classic Soft plastic is kind of the same thing as our classic plastic, but it's very soft. You can fold this disc in half and wiggle it back and forth, and it's got a lot of flexibility to it and a very sticky, almost a very tacky feel. So the purpose of the classic soft plastic is so that it absorbs bumps. So if you're using this for an upshot disc, which is the way that I recommend to use the classic soft plastic, it's not going to skip very much. It's just going to absorb the bumps and the speed that it comes into the ground with, and it's going to help stick next to the basket for maximum accuracy. Plus, discs in the classic soft plastic tend to mold up just a little bit more overstable than the same disc in other plastics. People who putt with the classic soft plastic like it because the extra grip gives them a nice clean release, and some claim that the extra grippiness of the soft plastic helps grab the chains just a little bit better. The classic blend plastic is a blend of our classic and classic soft plastic, and a lot of players like it because it has kind of the best of both worlds. It has the grip of the classic soft plastic, but the stiffness and clean release of the classic plastic. So it's what I like to use for putting, but a lot of players will like to use this blend plastic off the tee or for their upshots as well. It is going to fly a little bit straighter than a putter in the premium plastic, but because it does have that little bit of flex of the classic soft, it will tend to absorb bumps a little bit more than a stiffer plastic. And because it has the grip of the classic soft plastic, it's really easy to get a nice clean release and really control those distances on your upshots. Prime plastic is a little bit different from our classic plastics. It's designed to be an entry-level plastic, so people can try out our discs without having to invest in the more premium plastics. And because of that, you might be able to find Prime plastic in some other discs. Some fairway drivers or distance drivers will be available in the Prime plastic just so people can try them out. Now, Prime has a lot of grip, especially when it's wet, so a lot of players will use this Prime plastic for their putters if they're going to be playing in the rain or if there's any water around. They'll be able to still get a good grip and a consistent release on their putters. And actually, a lot of players like using the Prime plastic because it's not quite as durable as the classic plastic. And so if they like their putter to be beat in, to have those nicks around the edges to help it fly a little bit straighter on those longer putts, and they don't want to take quite as long as it would for a classic plastic, then they can use the Prime plastic and get that straight flight a little bit quicker so they can replace their discs if they lose them a little bit easier. The Lucid X plastic is similar to our Lucid plastic, as you may have guessed from the name, but they are a good bit more overstable and stiffer. They have a lot of extra stiffness to the plastic, and that makes them very durable, and in general they fly a lot more overstable. So discs in the Lucid X plastic, if you have one that is flying just a little bit too straight for you, or you want something that you can trust in a headwind, try picking one up in the Lucid X plastic to see if that fits the shot that you need it for. Usually the Lucid X plastic is going to be our Tour Series discs that support our touring players while they're out there on the road, but we might have some limited releases in other discs or other stamps throughout the year. Similar to the Lucid X plastic, we have Fusion X plastic. Fusion X is similar to the Fusion plastic, but a little bit stiffer and a little bit more durable, but it's a little bit harder to find. So the Fusion X plastic tends to have more of a flat top and tends to be a little bit more overstable, but it still has a lot of the grip of Fusion plastic. Glimmer is a plastic that you'll usually see with like Lucid or Lucid X. So you'll see Lucid X Glimmer or Lucid Glimmer before the disc, and that'll tell you that it's going to have a really cool look. The Glimmer plastic always has a really cool sheen to it. It catches the light really well. I always find it's really easy to find my Glimmer discs, and they always look super cool. Chameleon plastic, similar to the Glimmer plastic, is a really, really pretty plastic that'll be paired with either Lucid or Lucid X, and it'll kind of change colors depending on how the light hits it or depending on what angle you're looking at it. It doesn't always come through super well on camera, but in person, these discs look amazing. So that is all of our plastics here at Dynamic Discs. Let us know what your favorite plastic is and what disc and plastic combination you'd like to see.